Reading blogs and watching videos on porosity can make you feel like high porosity is always self-inflicted and that it's something that needs to be reversed. That's not always the case. Many people have naturally higher porosity hair, meaning the new growth that comes out of their scalp has thinner and more fragile cuticle layers. So people with naturally high porosity hair tend to also have finer hair strands. If you find your balance, high porosity hair types can retain a lot of length with some serious hang time without ever having to use heat. Porosity does not determine your hair's potential, and porosity is not the be-all end-all. Check out these YouTube channels. These ladies have healthy, thriving, naturally high porosity hair, and they talk about it from their perspective. And as you saw in the last video, high porosity can also be self-inflicted through heat damage, greenhouse overload, over-manipulation and neglect, and chemical damage. While these two scenarios are both high porosity, they don't always look the same. Hair strands that are naturally higher in porosity does not always have to have damaged, torn, or have exaggerated lifts. The cuticles could just be slightly lifted or relaxed, or the cuticles could just be thinner than average. A self-inflicted increase in porosity is where you'll see more severe tears, lifts, and missing cuticles. It doesn't matter if you have naturally high porosity hair or if you caused your hair to become more porous. High porosity is permanent. But there are minor tweaks you can make to your hair regimen to find your balance and keep your hair thriving. Apart from keeping your scalp clean, your hair moisturized and lubricated, and your ends happy, there are a few things high porosity hair types should pay extra attention to. Here are some tips. Protein treatments are especially beneficial to high porosity hair types. They create a thin film over your hair strands that acts as a temporary protective coat and gives your cuticles a little break for a while. Protein molecules come in different shapes and sizes. Some create a thick coat around your hair and barely penetrate, and others create a thinner, more breathable coat around your hair and absorb deeper into your hair strands. High porosity hair can handle using most store-bought protein treatments with larger protein molecules. But it's best to use a protein treatment with smaller protein molecules, like the Real Protein treatment, because it's small enough to penetrate and bind with deeper parts of your hair strands and create a more breathable and flexible coat. This way, your hair strands are strong and breakage resistant, but still flexible and soft. If your hair is high in porosity, try adding protein treatments to your regimen. Keeping high porosity hair strands properly coated and protected is very beneficial. So if you feel like your hair regimen is missing something, try adding a product with a mucilage texture. They stick onto and coat your hair strands really well and don't have to be reapplied as much. Experiment with ingredients like slippery elm, marshmallow root, chia seeds, or flax seeds, just to name a few, or look for them in the ingredients list in products. All textured hair hates being dry, but high porosity hair is especially prone and sensitive to dryness. It breaks a lot more than low porosity hair types when it's dry, and dries out a lot faster as well. So it's important to take extra efforts to always keep this hair type from drying out to a certain point. This looks different for everyone. The goal is to stay ahead of the dryness. For some people, it means re-moisturizing every night, or every other night, or every week. I can't talk about high porosity hair without talking about gentle handling. When you hear anything about tension, it's usually referring to your scalp. We don't hear much about tension to your hair strands. The cuticle layer on high porosity hair strands are already fragile, so it's easy to damage them. Avoid pulling on your hair strands or forcing it into tight braids or twists. Practice installing your braids and twists looser. At least loose enough where your braid isn't stiff and still has some wiggle room. And switch these tight hair ties to these satin hair ties. or stockings to a puff cuff. These small changes to your hair regimen can make a huge difference down the road to the health and look of your hair. As a recap, 4 things worth adding to your hair regimen if your hair is high in porosity are real protein treatments, products with mucilage, anti-dryness regimen, and extra TLC. There's a lot of confusion out there when it comes to the topic of porosity.